I was always the kid that could draw. I sucked at everything else. This is where I learned to paint. Westridge, Mitchell's Plain. Fuck, this picture sucks. Generally considered what the birth or the mecca of graffiti in South Africa. Also, more importantly, how it came to be that, it's my high school that I used to attend back in the days, way, way long ago, when I was a kid. I didn't do graffiti for political reasons or social reasons. I was 16. There was no greater cause than the immediate cause of getting some girls and respect. As most middle and low income areas go, comes with its social problems, its economic problems. For me, growing up here was, I think, definitely what was needed to make me who I am today.
I said, I get lost sometimes. I get lost. I said, I get lost sometimes. I get lost. I get lost sometimes. I get lost. I said, I get lost sometimes. I get lost.
Craig is a cantankerous man. We both grew up in Westridge, Mitchell's Plain. As far as graffiti is concerned, I would say like he took it the furthest. The granddaddy. It's pretty good, but he's not painting elephants everywhere.
So I'm kind of like I'm a cliche. I was born in District 6. At the age of 3, moved out to Mitchell's Plain, forced removals. That was 1975.
The law changed and then they made different areas for different races. And they decided that that District 6, just behind us basically, one street behind becomes District 6. They decided that now it's a white area and everybody had to move their head. I think it was over 5 years they bulldozed all the houses and moved everybody out. There was a comparison made to the forced removals from District 6 into the Cape Flats that mimicked what was happening in the South Bronx during the early 70s, when the formation of hip-hop, when it was first happening.
I'm a big believer that all that happened for a reason, and it was a good coming from a bad. And if I look at everything that has happened to me in my life and all the people that I've met and all the decisions that I've made, I've ended up still being a graffiti artist. I was chosen. In South Africa, you find a lot of different cultures, languages, landscapes, but generally, people only see the big cities. Once Upon a Town is a social art project where art is given to people that can't usually afford art as a luxury. A journey to paint homes in small towns across the country. I want to get to know the real South Africa, from the Afrikaans communities of the Western Cape to the Xhosa tribes of the East, the Zulus of KwaZulu-Natal, and the original people themselves, the Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert. Nothing great was ever achieved sitting at home, unless you were in a garage designing like Google and shit.
My name is Luke Daniel. I'm a social documentary photographer. My style of photography, I focus on fringe societies around South Africa, keeping it local. Yeah, social documentary with a heavy influence of people's relationship to the landscape. Yeah, Falko contacted me saying that he was going to be doing a project across the country, traveling to small towns. And yeah, I really enjoy traveling, really enjoy being on the road, so it was a natural fit.
The idea was to visit 6 small towns across South Africa, paint homes in low-income communities, starting in the Western Cape and working our way up to the Northern Cape to try and paint a home with the original Khoisan and rock artists, and hopefully leave something positive behind. Our first stop was Riebeek West, just out of Cape Town. Just being an outsider and going into a super unfamiliar area. There was already a piece of graffiti over there. And it says bandit. For those that don't know what bandit is, it's a prisoner. When I first came to Riebeek West, it was daunting, and I remember asking myself, is this really what you want to do? You know, the environment was very, very, very negative. And I thought to myself, look, if I'm going to overcome this, I'm just going to go into the middle. I'm going to go knock on a door and approach the home to see if we could get permission to paint. The first lady we met agreed, but then a mother came out and she said no.
In the smaller communities, home ownership is kind of different. It's not as black and white as it is here. So you'll have someone living in a home that's not the owner, and the person who does own that home will own a few homes, and then kind of walking that tightrope. It's a balance. Going into communities that you don't know or that you're not privy to before, you have to be sensitive to issues.
I know there's a lot of artists that would come in and they would be like, yeah, we want to paint what we want to paint, and it's art and blah blah. So I come in and I respect that it's theirs, and I want them to like it, and I don't want to force my artwork on them. The reason why I come to small towns specifically is because small towns need it the most. In the greater scheme of things, the small towns are kind of the backbone of the country. Without having any preconceived expectations of what was going to happen, I carried on and painted 20 homes. And I didn't have an exact explanation for it. But while we were painting, the meaning of what we were doing came. It was that the perception of value started changing. People saw a different value to what their house was. Because now, people who usually don't come to the area were now starting to take photos of it. And people passing by were commenting on it. People were initially quite skeptical, but slowly started to come around. Morning, morning. Hoe gaan dit?
Alright.
Good, good. That's the lady who said yes, but her mother said no, and then her father said yes. So Riebeek West was accommodating. People wanted me. We had a few people that said no for crazy reasons. But I think if they had their way, I'd still be painting now. I'll be painting there 24/7. They'd be having me on a leash. Our next town was Garis. It's a small agricultural Afrikaans community about 5 hours outside Cape Town. Population 1,500. We went to go say hi to the mayor to learn a little more.
Die naam Garis, dit gaan alles oor hierdie rivier wat hier verloop. Daar groei so 'n kweek, is 'n wille kweek. Jy kry dit oral, maar eintlik die eerste naam is wat die beskawing toegegee het. Is Kweekrivier, maar die naam Garis kom van bruin mense. Kweek in die ou naam is Gary.
Basically, my whole approach to this is that I make it as unfamiliar as possible. Just by making fantasy, but then adding in some sort of like subliminal social upliftment. But the reason why I make it as unfamiliar as possible because I want him to talk about it.
Ek sien nou, as hy bootse, moet ek sê hy seil. Dis 'n anti wat op 'n boot sit.
Ja.
By 'n boot sit. Maar as die printer my lyk, hy moet hier gewees het.
You know, but people have this box that is what's beautiful. And when you do stuff like gorillas and that, and people like, yeah, my horse is hier apen nie. And it was quite funny because that is what happened when I was painting the gorilla, and a passerby came to the owner of the house, and he was like, oh, so the gorillas bly nou hier, and she actually took offense. You know what I'm saying? It was just quite crazy. I was quite hesitant painting the gorilla, but I realized, fuck it, I must just do it and we'll deal with it afterwards. Because perhaps I can paint it in some way, explain to them afterwards. But fortunately, the homeowner was cool. This one's got my heartstrings. I feel this one the most. I actually think it's the most elaborate, like as far as execution. This time, not one house has said no. For everybody to want a piece on their house. It's quite remarkable. We hit the road to King Williamstown in the Eastern Cape. King Williamstown is actually not a town. It's a lot bigger with all these little sub-areas and sub-districts, largely a Xhosa community. We did some pieces and Luke took some stills.
We see things quite similarly in a way with the street art and with the application of paint on a wall for the final photograph. There's a lot of collaboration that happens, you know, in picking certain areas to paint and picking certain houses to do for that final image which lasts.
Luke, oh my. Luke is a unique character. What I like about Luke is that he gets involved with who he's photographing. He's like a people's photographer, but with such a good eye and an understanding of portraits and using the environment to get that moment across. And that is perfect for Once Upon a Town because it's not just about the graffiti, it's how the art affects the people and how the people inspires the artwork. Welcome to Manfreda. After 4 years, it's me and Manfreda. I've seen it so many times, and I've always wanted to stop here. And with Once Upon a Town, this is it. This is the full stop on our journey. It is halfway between Mthatha and Kokstad. We were out of the door by 7 a.m. like most working people, but we were out to start painting. It's been icy cold. I checked my phone, it was 3 degrees, so I thought, let's do something that reflects the weather. I'm doing this lady that's laying in a cocoon, because when I went inside earlier to say good morning and thank you for letting us paint the wall, she was still in bed. The old lady was feeding the pigs earlier. So I think that would be perfect to do something that was actually happening inside. And I'm putting some animals and stuff under the blankets with her. And we will call this piece Pigs in a Blanket.
There's a definite connection between the art and the actual place itself, the town, the people, the stories that are there. You know, that inspires Falko, and you know, it inspires me obviously to make images. Language is a big challenge, especially like going up Eastern Cape way and up into Natal Midlands. We live in such a multicultural society that it's kind of hard to get your point across, but that's the beauty of art, is that it is kind of a universal language. Art speaks where language doesn't.
Oh, it's a tight community. I like my place. It's flat and right. I want to paint elephant. I like elephant. I like it. There, down there in the river, it's nice.
I think we got some good pieces, and I think this is the most scenic thing we've done. I mean, the municipality said we can paint this bridge, so here I am. It doesn't rain in winter, so the river's really low. But in summer, we're coming back for one day to take a photograph of these artworks submerged. I think the mission this way was worth it. Driving at a furious pace, but late. I think what we've got and who we've met is perfect. feel the snow, but as our luck would have it, there's nothing in sight. We've been promised some thunderclouds. It rained a bit, it's overcast, it's dark. We had some thunder this afternoon. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We didn't find any snow, but at least by the next morning the storm had passed. Underberg is incredible, home to largely Zulu community and the gateway to the southern Drakensberg mountain range. I plan to meet up with an old friend, another artist I admire. Ian is Ewok, and he's from Durban. He's kind of the reason we're here because when he said he was going to come to Underberg and do a school project with a group of kids, I decided to kind of link what I'm doing with what he's doing, so it would be two different projects happening in Underberg at the same time.
These guys are part of a community service trip from Clifton Boys School in Durban. They come up here and they do 2 days of community intervention and activism. They ran some art workshops yesterday, and now they're getting busy with the kids on a wall, actually leaving something behind. It's kind of like a skills transfer idea. We want these guys to feel like once we've gone that they could do their own wall if they want.
A lot of the towns that we go to, because they're not business hubs or big towns, the services from government are lacking. It's a hard lifestyle. It's a hard existence and survival for people in rural communities. But I think through Once Upon a Town coming in, it was something different. It was a change of scenery. It's something that changes their perception as well as ours. We get a greater understanding of South Africa as a whole, and they get an understanding of street art, something that we bring to the table. So there's definitely an exchange of energy, and I think that it is uplifting.
Yeah, I love doing rondavels because, I mean, nothing says rural South Africa more than a rondavel. South Africa is a beautiful country. The journey was coming to an end, but there was still one town on our list. It was time to head back west. We are off to the Kalahari. It's a semi-arid desert. We're going to what's basically a colony of the Khoisan people. It's the original inhabitants, one of the oldest civilizations in the world, and importantly Africa. But I'm expecting to see the original man, the origin of graffiti or street art. The San or the Bushmen are the original street artists in a sense. Modern street art has evolved from sand rock art. I'm hoping to find a local artist and work on a piece together, but we'll see.
Hallo.
Hi, my name is Falko.
Jan.
Jan was a local guide and the first bushman I've met in my life. I'm sure he's been a guide for many people before, but not a guide on an actual graffiti project. Ek het ook gekom om 'n paar huise te verf, om 'n paar murals te doen op 'n paar huise. Ek wil hê miskien die ou moet my help om permissie te kry om saam net die locals te praat. In that moment I was a bit anxious. For me as an artist, this was the first time I'm coming to a place where I know they wouldn't know what graffiti was. So wie is die eienaar hier?
Die deel met de geel.
Okay.
Movement.
Dag sê almal. Hallo. Aangename kennis.
Ja, zeg, Boesman Kopper.
Ik heb gewoon een vraag. Ik heb onlangs gehoord dat het verkeerd om Boesman te zeggen.
Ja.
Nee, je moet zeggen Boesman.
Die plan niet voor ons gemoedstoestelling. Ja. Ik meen, dat laat me goed voelen.
If you go into a foreign community and the very first house you have an issue with, it could mean that you end up having an issue with everybody else. If we get the first house to say yes and I paint something that sells the idea of what I'm doing, then it's smooth sailing. En ek hou van olifante. Ek is baie.
Hy dink is mos baie sterk.
Ja.
Kom die kleintjie op.
En moenie Moenie laat die Amarula gedronken het.
Jullie kan zien, ik ga overal in Zuid-Afrika. So, ik was nog nooit hier niet toen ik gezegd hey.
Nee, je moet hier komen.
Ja.
Ja, Bricolari.
So, ik wil baie graag gewoon die kanten van die huis doen als je ook toestemming geeft.
Nee.
Ik ga morgenochtend vroeg komen, 5:30 in die ochtend, terwijl het nog cool is. Oké. Zal je later zien? Dank je.
Nee, we zien.
Hij was mooi.
Is een vriend.
Ja, maar hij was mooi.
Baie dankie voor die dag, mijn broer.
In the valley where my heart sinks, there will be no strings. I'm worth nothing.
So it's morning of day 2, very early morning. Yeah, that's how I'm gonna paint the sort of spark over here. So I'm gonna paint the chicken on there. And we seem to be quite early because nobody's awake. Also, these homies get up early bird. People sleep outside. Look, she's just laying there with the kids on the mattress. I used to have chickens when I was 10 years old. For real. At our little shop nearby, they sold them for 10 cents each. And they used to lay with me in the bed, like here on the pillow. The last was name was like Brindley. And I remember my mother was like, fuck it, we had enough of these chickens. So I had to take the chicken over to the neighbor, Mrs. Gillian, and I had to hold the chicken and she slaughtered him. And then we ate him. I vow never to buy chickens for 10 cents again. The Bushmen are great people. They also welcome outsiders, mainly because they can see potential for help. Historically, the education has been so bad. Then you have depression and the alcoholism, disempowerment. It's all a way of trying to cope with the modern day world, where you don't have any options. And with everything we've seen on this journey, I think South Africa still has a long way to go.
Kom ek sê jou die eerlike waarheid. Ons as Boesmans, gebore Boesmans, is die oudste nasie. Hier's nie 'n lokasie, huise vir mense nie. Jy het nie meer die vryheid wat jy altyd gehad nie. 'n Mens kan mos nie die wiel 2000 jaar terugdraai. So ons moet dit mos nou aanpas by die moderne. 'n Mens moet die lewe aanpas, maar jy moet nie jou kultuur en jou tradisie vernalatig nie. Want dit is wat jou maak wat jy is, jou kultuur en jou tradisie.
Daar is tekortkoming, mense wil graag dorpstigtinge, wil graag huise hê. Ons kan met mekaar hier verskil op die grond. Ons onder mekaar, maar nie een buitestander kan my kom rondstoot nie. Ek is 'n Boesman. Ek weet wie ek is. Ek is op my grond. So ek is vry.
So my ambition was to find out a bit more about Bushman art, kind of see if like an original painter of the style and technique still exists. So luckily we met David Kraper. He did what I wanted to see. He did it from the ground up with the building of the tools and the mixing of the paints. We're going to try and do a little collaboration. We took a twig of the bush, we got a gemsbok tail, and it's ready to go. Rock art, it doesn't really exist anymore. They're only doing it for survival, for tourism, where they're painting the ostrich eggs and the little stones and they're burning the bones. The dude that painted with me today has never painted on a structure in his life. Crazy that to them it doesn't even make sense that you can paint an upright structure, where that is actually the original purpose of what they do. I think it's sad. Okay, bye, thank you once again.
Say that.
My new friend, David Kraper. I think it's such a big leap in my understanding of where we are as street artists. That they once had their streets and they were the ones putting out there what they thought was relevant. And I understand what outsiders are coming in and be like, yo, this shit's real. You know, we need to save it. They are the original people. original ancestors.
It's been a laugh, man. It's been a laugh a minute. It's been a hell of a good time, for sure. A lot of graffiti's about ego and a lot of graffiti's about getting your name up. And for him, it's just about leaving something beautiful in the communities, you know? Leaving a piece of himself in the community, which is awesome. So to come here and experience that and to connect to the people and connect to the history and connect to the landscape is amazing. It's definitely the highlight of the trip so far, for sure.
With Once Upon a Town, I would like to try and do a lot more towns in South Africa. I'd love to go to every little rural town in the Eastern Cape, every town in the Karoo, the Valley of 1,000 Hills in Natal, and just paint 10 homes. I believe that South Africa, as a disjointed country, needs a lot more help. With Once Upon a Town, what it has taught me is that my belief in the beginning about what I'm doing is right. To see the people's joy, it's priceless. You can't put money to it. I don't want to do anything else. If this is all I can do until I'm 65, and by then have other artists incorporated into the project, I think I would have achieved something. It's what I'll do. It's all I'd ever want to do.